Hi, friends. Welcome back to Live at the Roxy on this Tuesday, March 30th. And as I was prepping for the show today, this was what I was thinking. I was looking through Twitter like I always do, and I was like, okay, Jordan Fisher was cast as Bart Allen. That's exciting for The Flash. And Ariana Grande joined as the judge on The Voice, and that's really something. It's probably going to change the show a lot. And Seth Rogen was clarifying Emma Watson's comments about this is the end and storming off and all of that. And then I was like, I actually don't want to talk about any of that stuff today. I don't feel like it. And instead, I kind of just wanted to check in with you guys and talk about me a little bit and about anxiety, because I'm thinking about doing something new on this channel. This is not the start of it, but I'm thinking about, instead of just doing Live at the Roxy daily, about kind of doing this more so like how do I describe it? Like a mini series on specific topics where we'll do a few episodes with some guests on specific topics. And I'm hoping that will be more not just specific, but targeted, and we'll know for you guys which episodes you really could use. And one of the series I really want to do on mental health and anxiety, because it can be so crippling. And I know that I hosted SEN this morning, and on SEN this morning, I did, I think, a really good job of doing my job and getting everybody to all of our goals and having fun. And people can do that while also feeling inside like they're little fucking ants eating at them. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Honestly, yesterday, I was having a totally fine day. And then I did something yesterday. I met up with somebody that we had some unresolved things to talk about. And so we met up. We were talking about those things, and it actually went really well. And I was having a fine time. And then last night, after that, I got on the phone with somebody who I really love and care about, and we got into a like drag out blowout fight. And they hung up on me. And then after the hang up were the novels back and forth. They hung up on me. I sent a, "Are you serious?" They sent me a novel. I sent back a novel. They sent back a novel. I sent back a novel. And my anxiety was starting to grow, and I started to spiral because I was anxious about this person. And then I started going on social media and then seeing things that I didn't want to see. And then I started getting crazy anxiety about that and what that means and what if and how's this going to work. And, you know, just of the unknown, just anxiety of the future, and having a lot of different struggles there. And and then like a lot of random people texted me yesterday out of left field that I was like, what is this energy? What is happening right now? And I just started to feel extreme anxiety. And then I was up all night because I couldn't go to sleep. And I tried to smoke, which helped a little bit with my anxiety. But the later that it got, the more I was like, I have to be ready for work tomorrow. And I've got 3 gigs tomorrow. And I've got a meeting tomorrow and all these things. And then, you start to think about that. And then you're like, but can I take any time off? And then I'm like, I really can't, because taxes are around the corner and I have to pay my taxes, and then I started thinking about a phone call that I had last week with somebody where they told me that even though I am stable, that I'm not growing and that I'm never going to grow unless I start to implement different tactics, which honestly I think is probably true. And, only stating all of this to show the spiral snowball effect. And so I wanted to talk about that because I think there are certain things we can do to pause anxiety, to stop anxiety dead in its tracks, and to, at the very least, slow it down, which is sometimes the most that you can hope for. And I've developed some tips and tricks that have worked for me in the past. And sometimes you need to speak them into existence for other people and for yourself. And as I started trying to implement some of those this morning, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this show and I'm going to do SEN and then I'm going to do my show. And what I'm certainly not going to do is let the anxiety run my life, because I run my life. And that is what I want to talk about today. So I have a bunch of things that I want to talk about, some Roxy advice, some tips, some tricks, some anecdotes, all of that stuff. And then also streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar and the super chat. I'll be taking questions, comments, concerns from you guys, because like I said, just today, I did not feel like talking about entertainment news. Just didn't feel like it. And that's my name right there. And that's my name right there. So I don't have to talk about it if I don't want to, because my name's on the side. So let's start with the Streamlabs. Like I said, streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar. I don't know whether people are not getting the notifications or what, but the views on the last few episodes have been so in the toilet. So first of all, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but thank you to the people who are actually showing up day in and day out. So I really, really appreciate you guys. You're incredible. And let's see what's going on in the Streamlabs. So the first Streamlabs coming in for today, coming from our very own Weston Ira. Weston Ira says in the Streamlabs last night at 2:30 in the morning, so Arkansas is possibly going to ban trans youth from receiving health care if the governor of the state approves the measure. In much better news, there is apparently a new Star Trek movie in the works from The Walking Dead writer Kalinda Vasquez. So Weston Ira, anybody who tries to ban trans youth from receiving health care can go officially fuck themselves, and we'll do whatever we can to fight that, because that's a load of bullshit and super illegal. And Star Trek, I like The Walking Dead, so whoop, whoop. Thanks for that little break from I like thinking about these things, so don't feel bad that you put that in there. I'm happy to talk about the things you guys want to talk about. That makes me happy. Glenn Caesar in the Streamlabs says Miles Cosgrove, Brett Hankison, Jonathan Mattingly arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor, all three of them for killing Breonna Taylor. Hope today is the day. Justice for all the people who lost their lives due to excessive force. Hashtag say their names. Absolutely. Hello and good afternoon, Roxy, and all your nicknames. Thanks again for hanging out with us. Great job hosting SEN Live. You were awesome. TOD was super funny. Truth or dare. Much love to you, Grammy and Popo. Peace, bunnies, hugs, and good stuff to you and yours. Thank you for always being here and there for us, RJ. Congrats on all that's in the works and now unfolding for you in 2021 and beyond. Fuck yeah to the new chapter and new adventures of Roxy. You rock. Roxy's the best. Roxy number one. Yeah. Happy Roxy days. Good thoughts and good vibes to you, Chunk, on garnering all your much-deserved success. Good luck with all the hosting, filming, auditions, and our booking other projects coming up. What's for you is yours, because you're earning it all, because you're fucking fire. Thanks, Glenn. And thanks for that support. I appreciate you. Adrian Bailey in the house. Hi, Roxy. Good job today on SEN Live. You are definitely the best, Rox. I watch you every day and think this girl is a genius at hosting, and beautiful too. I don't know about that, but thank you. You're a goddess in my eyes and always will be, Roxy. I love you, friend. Your biggest fan ever. Whoa, damn, biggest fan ever. Crazy. Noah says anxiety is a bitch. I'm hoping that you said Zoflot, but I think maybe Zoloft. I just started will help take care of it. I can really consume you. Absolutely, Noah. I feel that hardcore. I also think that while medication does help, I've been prescribed Xanax for years. I don't have to take it often anymore because I have developed different methods. So even if you are taking medication, you always want to use additional resources with that, such as making sure that you have the right therapist or making sure that you have the right breathing techniques and tactics. So make sure that you do those things as well. Mark Jason Ali in the Streamlabs with that big support. Thanks, Mark. Says, hi, Roxy. You crushed it on SEN today. Well done. You've got this. Take care of yourself. Smash cancer. Miles, Brett, John, arrest the motherfuckers. Well said, Mark. Well said. Morse Code Z in the Streamlabs says, I made it today, but only because I had a moment at work and refreshed my YouTube page. But yeah, even Patreon notifications have failed me the last few days. I watched yesterday late. Hugs for the mood. Why is that, Morse Code? I don't know what's happening with the notifications. It's just not ideal. Not ideal. Dylan Mantis in the chat says, anxiety stops me from being doing what I want. I try every day to push through it. Some days are worse than others. I think a lot of us feel that. If you're here right now, it's very likely, and by a show of bunnies, who has experienced any time within the last year extreme anxiety? Extreme anxiety. Let me know by a show of bunnies who in here some point in the last year has experienced extreme anxiety, whether it was for a day, for a week, for a month, for the whole time. Who has experienced that? If I was not hosting right now, I certainly would be typing bunnies myself because I have a lot of bunnies to send. Jake Yacovetta, Curtis Mason, Rob Fishbeck, Kay Black, Ryan Payne, Juan Mendez, Silu Bonino sent a thing that is not quite a bunny, but I'm going to take it as a bunny. Morse Code Z, Mason Allen, DK, Marion McClellan, Evan Hooker, Weston Ira, Gavin Min, Rick Bocanegra, Chris Martinez, Noah Denman, Redford Reddington, Glenn Caesar says not within the last year per se, but yes, so for sure. Robert Turner, the French taunter. Yeah, that's a lot of us. That's a lot of us. And so just that alone, making you know that this is not just you. You are not crazy. Nobody here is going to gaslight you. Nobody thinks that it's a made up disease. Anxiety is super duper real, and it affects a lot, if not all of us at some point in our lives. So, okay, talking about that a little bit. And by the way, Streamlabs in any suggestions, any questions, comments, concerns, advice that you've gotten that has changed or helped with your anxiety, personal experiences or anecdotes. But here are some things that I just want to mention. Number one, the best way to start dealing with your anxiety is by doing something. Now that sounds like the lamest advice ever, but what I mean is just I am unwilling to accept that I'm just going to sit in the darkness. I'm unwilling to let the darkness take over. And that doesn't mean that I don't sit here and say I have extreme crippling anxiety, because I do. And it doesn't mean that I just say, or that I say it's not okay to have anxiety, because of course it is. But the first thing that I do is decide that I don't want to feel this way. It is my first step always to be unwilling to leave myself in the darkness. And I mean that physically, literally, and metaphorically. I'm unwilling to let the darkness take over because I don't want to feel like this, and reminding ourselves that that is not what we want. And so we have to do something, because otherwise it doesn't tend to just go away on its own. You have to do something about it. So that's usually where I start, with the realization I am feeling anxious and I do not want to feel this way anymore. Here are some other things that I do in no particular order, but have tried in the past, and they work at different times. And that doesn't mean what works for me doesn't mean it works for you. And what works for me once doesn't mean it necessarily will work for me again. But these are things that have worked. One of the things I try to do is stop my spirals physically. So I'm a big visualizer, and a lot of these tips will be about visualization. I'm not as good at meditating. I'm not as strong in journaling, although I like doing those things, but I am a big visualizer because I'm a creative. So I like to visualize things. And so sometimes when I start to spiral, like last night, and what I would qualify as a spiral is when you're on one topic and you either go so deep into that topic that you can't get out of that one, it's just ruminating in it and you can't get out of that one topic, or you actually start going from topic to topic to topic to topic to topic to topic because one thing gets you to the next. How am I going to pay my taxes? That means I'm going to have to work every day, which means I'm not going to be sleeping, which means that I'm not going to be able to date anybody, which means that I'm going to die alone, which means that I'm going to leave my siblings. Like what that, both of those I would consider spirals. So sometimes if I catch myself spiraling, I will legitimately go, stop. Like I will take my hand, stop. We're not going to go there. Stop. We're not going to go there. And I know that sounds so silly, but sometimes the physical, like, stop, that's not what we're doing. And this kind of goes with the next thing that I do. And maybe I should share this part first, is that I really am strong in compartmentalizing. And one of the ways that I'm very strong in compartmentalizing is because I'm really good at visualizing buckets, my life in buckets. So it all sounds so weird to say out loud, but I was kind of talking to a friend about this the other day as I was trying to help that friend from spiraling. And I was like, well, I don't think I've shared this with people. I have all different buckets and I try to fill those buckets throughout the day, right? I told you guys a little bit about that, I believe. Got my family bucket. I've got my finance bucket. I've got my creative bucket. I've got my friendship bucket. I've got my health and wellness bucket. I've got all my buckets, all things that I'm trying to fill up throughout the day. And so typically one of those buckets is the main source for anxiety. And then all the buckets start to shake. And so, for example, last night, the main source for anxiety was one specific bucket that has to do with one person who is a family member. And so that bucket started to be super, super overwhelming. And what in the moment I needed to do was put a lid on that bucket. I needed to stop and put a lid on that bucket before that bucket started spilling into all the other buckets. And when I have done that in the past and was able to do that this morning, I was able to compartmentalize and then get SEN done. Compartmentalize and then get my job done. Compartmentalize and then talk to my landlord, because I was able to put a lid on that bucket, even though that bucket feels overwhelming and even though I know I'm going to have to come back to it later. So when is something ready for you to put a lid on it? When are you ready to physically think or mentally think about putting a lid on a bucket? For me, it's when either A, there's nothing more I can do in that moment. So, for example, last night, as I was in this argument, these novels were no longer helping. We were not moving forward. We were not accomplishing anything. It was really fucking late at night. And there was no lid put on, and I was not putting a lid on that bucket. And I needed to because I had done everything for that bucket that day that I possibly could have done. I had filled that bucket. And at this point, anything I did was going to make that bucket worse, not better. So that's one reason why you would need to put a lid on a bucket. I'm no longer helping the situation. I'm no longer filling this bucket. I am now just fucking up this bucket, or this bucket is just tapped for the day. So I need to put a lid on that. Another reason you would need to put a lid on a bucket is if you really need to fill other buckets. So this morning, when I woke up or barely slept, so thinking about that bucket. And then I'm like, I actually have to fill my work and finances bucket right now. I have to. So I have to put a lid on this bucket so that I can go do something else. And that's where the compartmentalizing comes in. because I have to think about, does this fight that I'm in affect my job? Or am I letting this fight that I'm in affect my job? And I realized it was the second. There was no direct correlation. I didn't have to be on air with that person today. There was nothing there. So it was me that was letting that affect my job. And I didn't want that. So I put a lid on that bucket this morning. I also understand that buckets don't typically have lids, but my buckets do have lids. So just visualize that. And for you, that might be different. For you, it might be balloons or bowls or little boxes. For me, for some reason, when I visualize, I just visualize these buckets. And I really think about them. And I really picture putting the lids on the buckets. And then I will physically do that, kind of mime it. And that really, really helps for me. So maybe that is something that relates. Maybe that will help you guys. Maybe not. I'm going to take a couple super chats and Streamlabs and then get to some more tips, tricks, and things that I have done to help with this extreme anxiety. Evan Hooker says, as a longtime anxiety sufferer, B complex vitamins and magnesium have made a huge difference from a strictly nutritional standpoint. Nutrition is key to anxiety because whether it's the fact that sometimes people are anxious because they are hungry or because they're not eating well or they're not getting the vitamins that they need, that people don't even think about that being a component, but it is a huge one. So thank you, Evan, for that reminder. Curtis Mason says, learning to manage my expectations has helped me a lot to be happy. I set the bar a little bit lower, so those little wins mean a lot more to me. I don't know, Curtis, if that works for you, that's great. I don't know if we need to set the bar lower necessarily, but I do think celebrating the little wins is important. The little victories is really essential. And so I certainly agree with that part of it for sure. Jake Yakoveta, thank you for reminding people, streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar. Appreciate any tips and tricks you guys have that have helped you personally. Would be huge to share today on the show. Going into the Streamlabs, Joseph Ashley in here says, my anxiety social events, heart beats fast and want to hide. Not always girls, but I think pressure to do something right now cause panic and can't think clear. Any advice? So I think this advice today is for all of these things. I think anxiety is anxiety, and whether that's anxiety is caused from girls or anything to do with work or family or finances, anxiety we all feel it differently, but the numbness in your fingers or the tightness in your chest or the headache or the whatever it is, it physically manifests a lot. And so all of this today is partial advice for you. And then when it comes to the social anxiety aspect of it, I think that remember as we get older that nobody is thinking about you as much as you're thinking about you. And I don't mean that like nobody cares about you. People really care about you. But like if you're at a party, really you're the only one like looking at yourself. And so if that means that you want to chill by yourself until you feel comfortable, you go into a group and you're kind of just by yourself doing your thing and enjoying your own company, then that's okay. And nobody's sitting there thinking, what is that person doing? Everybody's involved in their own conversation. Then when you feel ready, you can always talk to people, ask questions. I find that asking questions is a really great way to get to know people and also to eliminate some of the awkwardness or the anxiety. You also then don't have to have the pressure of answering things, be a curious person, and just kind of let yourself be okay being in the room, being yourself, because nobody else thinks that's bad or weird. We only think that about ourselves because we're so in our heads, but nobody else is watching in the same kind of way. So hopefully that helps a little bit there. Going into the next Streamlabs, Leonard Kim says, hey, Dimple Tits, sorry about your anxiety, but I'm sure you'll feel better soon enough. You have plenty of people who support you. Unrelated, I meant to follow up on your tweet. Who is someone you can count on? The hair looks beautiful. I have a lot of great people I can count on, luckily. A lot of great people. But I was listening to this advice expert that talked about how ideally you have 5 people that you can call when you are feeling anxious. So one of my things that I have on my list to talk to you guys about is reaching out to others. Talking to somebody who's not involved in the situation, because sometimes talking with the person who's involved in the situation, if that's what's causing anxiety, can cause more anxiety, especially if you don't know what you want to say yet or what's going on. So it's really nice to have 5 people in your arsenal, 5 people in your list, in your Rolodex that you feel comfortable calling for a variety of reasons. Whether those reasons are I'm feeling extreme anxiety, I feel depressed, I am upset, or positive reasons. To have those people in your life that you can talk things through with sometimes can be helpful. And unfortunately, when we only rely on one person or 2 people, if that person is not available, it feels like the world is going to collapse. So if you can have a few, whether it's parents or children, or I don't mean children like kids, I mean like depending on your relationship with your family, or siblings or cousins or friends or mentors, if you can have a few people that you can reach out to keep yourself from going into that dark place. And Jake, I see you saying talking to people makes it worse for me. I will push back a little bit on that, because oftentimes you have kept things inside, and I won't air out any of your tea. But then when you'll speak about it, which is rare because, you'll come to me or we'll talk about something, oftentimes we can come to some kind of a solution or some kind of an action step. And so I think that there are certain things when you're trying to figure out what your own thoughts are. Sometimes it's good to sit with yourself for a second and just think, okay, how do I feel? But going to people often will make it better and more clear what the next steps should be with something. And it depends on who you're talking to. Some people make things worse. And those are probably people who shouldn't be on your list of 5. People who, when you're at your lowest, make you feel really bad about yourself, who try to push an agenda on you, who aren't understanding fully what you're saying. That can be really frustrating. So that I will say there. Weston Ira in the Streamlabs says, fluffies of bunnies for your day, Roxy. Only focusing on what makes you happy helps me with anxiety. Just saw that an Italian mafia dude who was on the run for 7 years was tracked down through a YouTube cooking show he started with his wife. What? That is an absurd story. I'm definitely going to have to look into. Thanks for sharing, Weston. Anonymous, can I speak, said, when I get crippling anxiety, I close myself off, have said and done things I wouldn't normally do or say, and regret them afterwards. My brain has racing thoughts and goes to the worst case scenario. My therapist taught me mindfulness. It does work sometimes. Yeah, it can. Different things work at different times and for different people. And that's why it's important to keep trying things and see what works for you. It can be really, really challenging to find the right things, but it is super worth it. On what was it that you said that I wanted to follow up on about a worst case scenario? So one of the ways that I usually with myself know if I am about to have extreme anxiety about something, and you want to start to know yourself enough to know what are your triggers and what are the signs that you're about to spiral. You're about to go to Spiral City. What's happening before? For me, one of those major signs, and for a lot of you guys, I'm sure, is when I start going to the what if. What if? What if? What if? What if is not a good place for me to live. So I really try to stop when I start saying, but what if? So, one of the things, just to be perfectly frank, that last night I was feeling anxiety about, is that I'm looking on social media and I see that my ex is releasing a song that's from the title clearly going to be about me. And just being completely candid with you guys, he's said nothing to me about this. Which I think, if you, just as a Roxy's Advice Corner, if you're an artist, you're an artist and you're allowed to create from whatever your life is. But to not give somebody a heads up that you're about to release something about them and for them to find out with the rest of the world is really shitty. That's a really shitty thing to do to somebody. And so my anxiety started going. I was already going. And I'm looking at this and I started to think, what is this? What is this person about to say? What does this mean? What if it's mean? What if it's rude? What if it says something that about me that I wish people didn't know? What if? And that's me worrying about something that that's not helpful, because I'll hear it when I fucking hear it, I guess. And for that person to not respect me enough to say something, that was their choice. I then have to take that and not spiral, because I'm an adult. I don't mean that like adults don't spiral, but I still have a life to live. And if they're going to do something shitty, I still have to be me, because I don't want to react in a shitty way. I still want to just be me. And so you have to really try to stop the what ifs and let life happen and then deal with things. So that, you try to stop things from spiraling, because there's no amount of me asking what if that's going to give me the answer. So it's a waste of my fucking time. And that's with anything. I know that was a very specific situation because I'm being vulnerable and sharing with you guys, but like that situation could be, what if I'm going to be fired? Which a lot of us have felt before. What if I can't pay rent? What if? And instead of making action plans and instead of thinking about what you can control, we start thinking about all the things we can't control. And that will usually cause spirals. So when you start to feel yourself thinking in what ifs, try to breathe through it and physically stop. Stop. We're not going down that path, Rox. Stop. There's no point in asking what if. So stop. And that's a little bit more about me in that arena. Also in the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Roxy Stryer. Glenn Caesar back in the house says, Roxy, I just have to say that visualization, which automatically combines the mental energy of thinking with the emotional energy of feeling, leads to manifestation. Yeah, that's true. So even if you're not good at meditation, visualizing means that you really are good. Thanks, Glenn. Bo Jackson, the Streamlabs says, hi, Roxy, just came on late and don't know if you've talked about it yet here on SEN Live, but what are your feelings about San Diego Comic-Con doing a smaller event this year over Thanksgiving? Will you attend? Bo Jackson, you're the first I'm hearing of that. So I'll have to look into it because I literally haven't even heard anything about that. So I guess I will look into that and then get back to you guys ASAP. Thank you to Jake, streamlabs.com/Roxy Stryer. Appreciate you putting that in here. You are the best. Going over a couple more things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about today. This one's really important, and it's the one that everybody fucking hates to hear. Everyone hates this one. Anytime I'm giving advice to my friends or watching people grow and learn, nobody fucking likes this one because it's, in my opinion, the hardest one to do when you are so fucking anxious. But it makes the biggest impact, scientifically speaking, as well. And it's to fucking get up and move. The last thing when we are anxious, any of us want to do is move. We want to sit on the couch. We want to sink into a hole. We want to just stay in one place and let the darkness take over because we don't want to fucking move. And it is so hard to convince our brains, no, get up and move. And that doesn't mean that you need to go on a 10-mile run. It means that you can get up and walk around the block. You could do a little bit of yoga. You could get on the bike or walk on the beach in the sand. You could literally just walk around your house, walk up and down the stairs a few times if you have some stairs. It is, for some reason, when you are with anxiety and depression, when you are in this dark place, our mind convinces us that you want to stay still. And the best thing to do, even when in that place, you're convinced getting up won't do anything. It is the most helpful thing you can do is fucking move. Even standing up might feel like a marathon at the time. But get up, go outside, get up, exercise a little bit, dance, do some jumping jacks, anything that causes you to move a little. This one is so crazy because it is so helpful, and our brains, when they are not well, convince us, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's wild how the brain can trick you like that. But it's a really important one, and we always forget about it when we are anxious, or if we remember, we just decide not to. So that. In the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar, Bojack says, oh, wow, I should have read the room before my last question. No, you're fine, Bojax. I know the show's a roller coaster, but oh boy, I hope your anxiety is overcome by the positivity you receive here and from your friends. You guys always help. You guys always help, and I appreciate that. And hopefully you guys help each other too, which I have seen firsthand, so I know you do. That's a big one. Another one that's always been a big one for me, and it's not exactly journaling, but is making a game plan. I like to write things down. How am I going to handle this? So sometimes when you're feeling anxiety, you don't actually know how to pinpoint where it's coming from, and then this thing might not be as helpful. But if you know where the anxiety is coming from, you've got to make a game plan. So say taxes are due and you are 1099 and this is a lot less than I fucking owe, but say you end up owing $1,000, okay? Just to make this math easy. And say that you owe $1,000 and you have, I don't know, 10 days to pay it, okay? So your game plan would be, how every day over the next 10 days can I make $100? And so then you would game plan what you're going to do each of the days and where you're going to put the money and how you're going to do it. This is kind of a bizarro example, but you guys get what I'm saying. You just figure out what you need to do. And instead of the anxiety will still be there, but it will dissipate a little bit as you figure out how you are going to accomplish the things you need to accomplish. So for example, this morning for SEN, I was feeling extreme anxiety. I was like, do I call out of the show? What do I do? I'm having a really fucking hard time right now. This is just overwhelming. And then I was like, no, I need to make a game plan. What am I doing on the show today? I know that we need to make at least $500 for the show to be viable. And I know that I know that Christian gets really happy when we make more than that, and then I can keep my job and all those things. So what am I going to do? So then I said, okay, I can come up with another game. I know that the strip thing worked last time. So instead I was like, okay, if I have to make at least $500, everything after that, then we'll do truth or dare for. So you make a game plan, and then I wrote all the truth questions, and even focusing on writing the questions helps with anxiety. And I wrote all the dares, and then I went in and I was like, I have a game plan. Here's what I'm doing on this show today. Here are the stories we're talking about. Here's what I'm doing with this. Here's how I'm going to make the money. I don't have to have anxiety around this situation. Still anxiety in other situations, but I'm putting the lid on those for now. So that is how that works. You just have to, not just have to, it's very difficult, but game planning and writing down what you're going to do can really help with anxiety because it can help you problem solve. And problem solving really is an important way to be able to move forward. And a lot of times when you're feeling anxious, it's because you're feeling stuck and you can't even think about moving forward because you are feeling, and this is why physical movement helps so much, you are feeling stuck physically, emotionally, mentally. You are spiraling, you're stuck. And you have to have forward movement, forward thoughts, and actual moving to help. On that note, one of the things that we also don't like to do, but really is so helpful, is to fucking pack our days and stay busy. Staying busy keeps the mind from wandering. A wandering mind can be an anxious mind. And so instead of canceling those plans with your friends, instead of canceling that big meeting that you know you're ready for anyway, instead of canceling that coffee or canceling cooking dinner, whatever, jam pack your day. Not jam pack and like, oh, that's so stressful. Jam pack your day just in terms of fill up your day with things that you have to and want to do. Even if it's from 10 to 11, I am watching this TV show and I'm eating at this time in this day, and I'm going to get the meal from this place, and I'm going to go on this walk at this time, and I'm going to work on my work at this time, and then I'm going to do whatever it is to keep busy. When you have activities and people you're talking to and things you're watching and little things to accomplish, all of that, even if you're making up things, I'm going to bead this thing, I'm going to paint this thing, just stay busy. And if you stay busy, it is harder to be anxious because your mind cannot wander as much. So staying busy is something that our anxious mind tells us not to do, but our whole self tells us is a good experience. Glenn Caesar in the Streamlabs, streamlabs.com/Roxy Striar says, yeah, that's true, Roxy. Physically moving, no matter if it's walking, jogging, doing yoga poses, exercise, whatever it is, changes your body's energies, aka the hormones and chemicals, etc., that are currently flowing in your brain and throughout your body. Exactly, Glenn. Zen Glenn with that science. That's what I'm talking about. It really does make a difference, even though our bodies try to convince us that it doesn't, which is shitty of our bodies, but that is what they do. Something on the other side of this, just to remind you guys, that is not good to do to yourself or to anybody else if they come to you and say they feel anxious, is to suggest that they relax. Relaxing is actually not helpful for anxiety as a suggestion. And I'll explain why by I was watching this video because I really like to educate myself on a lot of this stuff and see what the best tips and tricks are for me and for you guys. There was this guy who was talking about it, and this is how he compared it, and I thought this was really poignant. When you walk into a dark movie theater, it takes your eyes 20 minutes to acclimate to the darkness in there. You ever have that feeling where you walk into a dark room, you can't see anything, and then after a little bit, you can start to see a little more? When you walk out of the movie theater into the light, your eyes acclimate immediately. And so while we can go 0 to 100 in terms of anxiety, all of a sudden we feel fucking anxious. It drops on us like a shit ton of bricks. You don't go from anxiety in 1 second to relaxation. All of these other steps that we're talking about can get you to feel more relaxed. But just trying to go from anxious to relaxed is actually not a thing. And so it's really not helpful to tell people that they should relax because that's not an action step. We don't know how to do that. Another thing that I'll tell you guys is this is something you learn in acting classes and directing classes. If you come up taking any acting classes or directing classes, you're never supposed to tell somebody to play sad or mad. If you're directing a scene, you're not supposed to say, can you do that take again, but can you do it more sad? Because that's not something that the human brain completely computes. We can't think, oh, let's just be sad. You're supposed to talk somebody into what that looks like. So, can you remember in this scene that the dog just died and that dog was given to them by the grandmother, and that was the last thing that they thought that the grandmother's gift was, and there was so much emotion and energy in that dog, and now that the dog's not there, what will that mean? You're supposed to talk somebody into what the situation is so that they can embody that sadness. You're not supposed to tell somebody to relax. What the fuck does that mean? Instead, you help them or yourself by giving them practices like buckets and breathing and therapy and all of the things, and staying busy and coffee and talking. Just telling somebody to relax is not helpful, and telling yourself to relax. If you ever just sit and think like, can I just fucking relax? It's not helpful, because that is you trying to go from the light into the darkness like that. And it's just not going to acclimate that quickly. So hopefully that resonates with you guys as well. I'm going to be getting out of here very soon, because we have been doing 47 minutes of this show on anxiety. And I think that we've gotten some great tips and tricks from you guys also, and some great personal stories. I appreciate all of you guys who are willing to share. You guys are great. And I just use the word great so many times, but it's true. The rock stars are amazing. Let's get in any last minute Streamlabs and super chats, any last minute comments before we get out of here. And we take these tips and tricks and we try to implement them into our lives. They're really just they're not tips and tricks. Tricks feels like you're tricking somebody. It's more just practices, I guess. Ace Money in the Streamlabs says, Roxy, I'm really glad you faced the anxiety and made the day happen. SEN was a lot of fun today, and you are giving great advice today. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure it's going to be helpful to the community. Hang in there. We have your back. I appreciate you, Ace Money. Thank you for that. Glenn Caesar says, Roxy and everyone who shows up for people, you're kind, you're smart, you're unique, and being so unselfishly loving and supportive of others, including strangers on the internet or not, makes you worthy. Your story is important and deserves to be seen and heard. Positive thoughts to you, RJ, and all the rock stars and world friends who show up and give their support whenever, however they can. Don't forget, when it gets tough, even if you're by yourself, you're not alone. Everyone who's battling, keep on fighting. You're a winner. It's really sweet, Glenn. Thank you for that. Oh, he also said, let's go, Smets and everyone fighting for today, tomorrow, and more. Smash cancer all day, every day. Roxy, be most excellent. RJ and Rockstars, show up for people who need it. That makes you dope as fuck, humane and worthy. Cheers to fuck yeah news and laughter for all of us. Absolutely. A lot of other things I've talked about on the show already that help with this, but practicing gratitude, remembering what you are grateful for, those are all things that definitely help. And then, of course, there are outside resources. Cannabis has been a huge, huge help for my anxiety. I cannot stress that enough. Cannabis also helped me wean off of Xanax, which is also necessary a lot of the times, but or sometimes with people, but is not a plant. So I would much rather be smoking a doobie. And so those are things that have helped. Tea has really helped me. Hot water on my chest. If you put hot water in a bag and you just lay with it on your chest, or even putting something weighted on your chest, weighted blankets have helped people. There's all different things that you can do that we can talk more about in future shows. These are just some of the things that have helped with anxiety for me and hopefully for you guys. Curtis Mason says, as we're talking about stress, the lady in front of me in the drive-thru turned and got stuck on the curb. I feel bad for her. She got it fixed now. That sucks. That is stressful. That is very, very stressful. Oh boy. All right. We're going to get out of here. You guys are incredible. Thank you for being here with me today on this stressful, anxious day, but still a day. Tomorrow will be a new day. Every hour is a new hour. And I know we'll get through it together. So thank you all for joining. Ian Roth, Joseph Ashley, DK, Movie Master 83, Weston Ira, Rob Fishbeck, Noah Denman, Jake Yakavetta, Lemmy Kilmister, Curtis Mason, Nancy Rodriguez, Rick Bocanegra, Evan Hooker, DK, Raymond Stone, wanting to hit everybody, Andrew Thomas, Oscar Dominguez, Mark Jason Ali, Ryan Payne. Leave some love if I didn't give you guys some love on the show. Joseph Ashley, ZB, Redford Reddington, Susie Easton, CeeLo Bonino, Glenn Caesar. Hopefully I hit a lot of you guys. Katsuka 1992, 1992. It's a year after I was born. All right, my loves. Blow on your internet. You know, you got to check it out. It will help with the whole thing. Put the toilet seat and lid down. The Flumes, make your beds. Don't trend with the Holocaust. Brett, Miles, Jonathan, arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Shout out to Mark M, Track Stars, Melissa Byrne. Yo, Ace Money. Yeah. You guys are great. And everybody sending bunnies. Aren't you the best? Much love, friends. Stay safe. Stay sane. Try to implement some of these practices and let us know in the comments if you're watching afterwards what it is that you do to help with the anxiety. We can all learn from each other, and it really helps when you guys share your thoughts as well. Until tomorrow, much love, and I'll see you guys live at the Roxy tomorrow, 1 p.m. ish.